Welcome back. Today on Real Reviews, we are here with the Nintendo Switch 2. I know a lot of you guys been trying to get this. A lot of you guys already have it. Everybody's buying it. Everybody's selling it. It's just a crazy mess out there right now. But we have our hands on the Switch 2. Let's take a look at it. Here is the box. Here are the sides, the back, and there you have it. So we're going to go ahead and open this up and see what we get inside. Now, in order to open it, there is a nice little spot right here you have to cut with your scissors. So go ahead and grab your trusty scissors. Go ahead and cut it right here, just like that. So you know if your Switch 2 is new, if this spot right here has not been cut yet. So you just go ahead and open up the tab. And here we go. You guys ready? I have not seen this yet. Ooh, look at that. Nice. Look how big this thing is. Go ahead and take it out. This thing is huge. It's heavy. Nicely packaged. Let's just actually put this to the side real quick. Let's get everything else out first. So we have our little Joy-Cons. They feel pretty cool. Very nice. Nothing too special, I guess, but a lot of people say they are really special. Here's the other one. Pretty cool. Let me pick it up. What is this? What is this? Okay, so we got a Mario Kart for the Mario Kart bundle. We have our warranty, usage guidelines, health and safety information. And then here we have our HDMI cable. Here we have our Joy-Con straps. So these things are not just flying off your wrist. Now this is just like, I don't know, some type of like plastic. It almost feels like 3D printed or something. Feels pretty interesting. All right, let's see what else we have in here. And then we have, here's your Joy-Con grip right here. You put your Joy-Cons one on either side. So it comes with a lot of stuff, pretty cool. You have your power cable, USB-C to USB-C power cable. Then you also get a charging brick. Wow, Nintendo, you give us a charging brick. Like so many places, they don't give you charging bricks. They just give you this cable that say, here, charge it, figure out what to plug it into, whatever. But you need an 18-watt charger, by the way. All right, so let's see what else we have in here. Last but not least, we have our dock. This feels pretty light. Doesn't feel too crazy. And here's our Nintendo Switch 2 dock. Look at that. Nice. Has some little grippy grips on the bottom there. Some spot for airflow. Spot where you can plug your Switch in right there. Then we have a couple USB ports, USB-A ports. We have some more like venting on it. And then as far as opening it, it just opens right up. And this back cover just falls right off. So it doesn't like fold down and stay like the Switch 1 does. Underneath here, you have a USB-C charging port. You have your HDMI port. And this on this one versus the Switch 1, you're actually losing the USB port and you're getting a LAN jack right there. So you want to hook it up directly to your network to plug it in and have wired network. And that's probably good because then you're not, having Wi-Fi issues or anything like that. So it comes with a lot of stuff in here. A nice HDMI cable. What does it say? Ultra certified cable, HDMI, ultra high speed. Wow. I mean, that looks like that is so good. I have to put it back in the bag just so it doesn't get messed up. There we go. Amazing. All right, so let's take our box out of here. So everything that we have inside of the box, we have our Switch, we have our Joy-Cons, we have our Joy-Con straps, we have our, what is this? Tells you don't play games for too long and maybe your warranty. We have a Mario Kart bundle right there. We have to scratch it off and register it. We have your USB-C to USB-C charging cable, your power brick, your HDMI cable, your grip controller right here. And then we have our dock. Very, very nice. So let's go ahead and take this out, see what it's like. I'm kind of scared. This is scary, guys. This thing is too expensive to drop it. Look at that. Very nice. Wow, look at that. There's vents on top. I mean, it doesn't feel like overly built. It doesn't feel like super duper built. You have a USB-C port up there. You have a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, some volume buttons, volume rocker, I guess. You have a brightness sensor. You have your power button, your cooling right there. And what else we have here? On the bottom, we have some more cooling, another USB-C port. The USB port on the bottom is for charging the Switch. The one on the top is for connecting accessories. And back here, you have your stand. So you go ahead and grab this like this. You can fold it out. Now, this doesn't feel like too strong, to be honest with you. This whole thing feels a little bit cheesy, I think, for 500 bucks. A lot of people say that it's such great build quality, but I mean, I don't know. Here's a spot where you like stick on your controllers. So you take your controller, it's magnetic, so you just basically grab it and it just goes right into the slot right here. Now you go to controllers in. Same thing with the other controller. Boom, stuck right in there. And like I was saying, I don't know, build quality does not seem like super duper great on here. Here's where you put your games in, kind of like, I don't know, maybe breakable. Stick your games in there and then kind of locks them into place. I mean, it looks cool. It feels really good in the hand. I mean, this screen is nice and big. I mean, look at that thing. That screen is really nice. It just feels good in the hand. I mean, I don't know. So far, I'm not like super duper impressed with it. I guess it's better than the old one in a lot of ways, but for that price, I think instead of being plastic, because this is definitely plastic, this could be aluminum. I think would be nice if it was aluminum. But there you go, guys. This is the Switch 2. Looks pretty cool. Here's your dock. So you just take it and you just put it into your dock just like this, right in the center, and there you have it. Okay, so before we get into the system setup, I did want to show a couple of different things here as far as the controllers, because they are magnetic. The way that you take them off is there's a little button right here and right here on both sides. So you're going to push the button and kind of just angle it down, and it just comes right off. And then once you have your controllers off, you can actually use, see if I can get it back in the slot there. So then you can use these Joy-Con straps. You can just put them in just like this, and then they go on pretty easily. Then you can use these Joy-Con straps on your hands so you're not throwing your controllers. And this also functions as an on-screen mouse. So these little tiny pieces right here. And there's a little camera down here, a little black and white camera, and you can just go over your desk like this, and you actually have mouse controls on a Switch 2. So that is also cool. And now as far as taking these off, the same thing again, just press the button in, just pops off, and you just take it right off just like that. Then you also have your grip, and this is color coded. So this is blue, obviously. So the blue one's going to go on the blue side, just like this. And then the other one, if you want to put it on, just pull it off of here like that. And that goes on the other side, just like this. Let's see, just snaps in. So then you have your controller. I can use this as a controller. I mean, this is almost feels like it's a pro controller. It almost feels like it's around the same size. The buttons are obviously a lot smaller. And then the same thing, once again, you press the little buttons, take it off just like that, press the other button on the side, and it just pulls right out just like that. So there you have it. And then once again, color coded. So this goes on this side like that. This goes on this side. There we go. It just snaps right into place. Just show you the difference between the Switch 1 and the Switch 2. So as you can see, the size difference in the actual unit itself. So here are the units. Pull this one out here. I mean, you can see how big this one is in comparison. So huge difference. The controllers are bigger. It's almost the same thickness, I guess, just a little bit thinner. But as far as the size goes, as far as like screen size, it's just crazy. I mean, just a huge difference. But there you go. There's the size difference of the two. And now as far as the docks themselves, the difference of the docks is going to be obviously the back panel over here. It folds down, it just kind of hangs, and you have your USB-C, you have your USB-A, and then you have an HDMI. Versus on this one right here, this panel just basically just comes off and just completely comes off. You have your USB-C port, you have your HDMI, and you have your LAN. Now, both of them still do have the two USB ports. You have your two USB-As here, you have your two USB-A ports here. So now we're going to go through the system setup portion. So what I did is I called in my technical expert, Aden from Aden's World. So if you guys want to watch any Switch content or Switch 2 content, that's going to be the channel to go to. And I will leave a link in the description. So now I'm going to turn it over to him and we're going to get going with the system setup.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. Let's get straight into the system setup. All right, so let's turn this thing on here for the first time. All right, there we go. So there's the Switch 2 logo. Seems to be booting up here. All right, let's pick our language. All right, now we got to connect it to the internet here. So let's do that. So now that we're connected to the internet, let's move on to the next step here. About to download update data. So now we got to pick our time zone. So I believe this is it. With Nintendo Switch 2, you can play games wherever you want, however you want. The system can stand at whatever angle you like. Just pull out the rear stand. Detach the right-hand Joy-Con too. Now we got to detach the left one as well. Select next with the controller you removed. We'll connect it to a TV later. Attachment guide. You can use the accessories that came with the system to hold the Joy-Con 2 controllers in multiple ways. So for the attachment guide, you guys can check that out on your own, but for video purposes, we're going to move on to the next step in the setup process. Choose a style, you can change it at any time. So we can play handheld, we can play it with the stand in handheld mode, and we can play it docked. So we still got a little bit of update data, so we'll be back once that's done. The system has just finished its update and now it just rebooted. The system update is now complete. This is the start system transfer screen. So this is if you have a Nintendo Switch, you can transfer all the data from your Nintendo Switch to your Nintendo Switch 2 so that you don't have to go and individually send across your save data, your profiles, all that stuff manually. This is a pretty easy process. If you don't do this right now, you will not be able to do it in the future without resetting your system. So just be aware of that. If you have a Switch 1, you want to transfer it, you need to do it now. So just to let you guys know, if you're worried about losing all your data on your Switch 1, don't worry because the process only copies the data from your Switch 1 to your Switch 2, with the exception of some games like Animal Crossing New Horizons, which only lets you have one save per profile. So you can't have like one save on your Switch 1 and on your Switch 2 at the same time. You can't do that. It can only be on one console. If you do not have a Switch 1 and this is your first time getting a Switch 2, then you will select Don't Transfer. That's only if you don't have a Switch 1. So you can learn a little bit more about the system transfers by pressing this button here. But we're going to start the system transfer now. So before starting a system transfer, if you have a microSD express card, insert it. This system only accepts the new technology microSD express cards. Any other SD cards such as microSD XC are not supported. We're going to skip that step because we don't have one. So now we got to sign into a Nintendo account. So we'll be right back once we do that. Within a few seconds of signing into the account using the QR code, a screen will pop up asking you for a 5-digit verification code. So you'll enter it right here. There we go. So we added our Nintendo account now. Move the system and the source system close together to transfer data. So we need our Switch 1. So the first thing you'll notice between the Switch 2 and the Switch 1 is the screen quality, which is a big difference. Even though these are two different menus that you're seeing here, like it's a big difference. The 1080p HDR display on the Switch 2 is amazing in comparison to its predecessor. What you want to do to start the transfer is you want to go onto your Switch 1 and go under System Settings. Then you want to scroll all the way down to System and then all the way to the very bottom of that, which you will find System Transfer to Nintendo Switch 2. So you want to select that. And then it says this system's data will be transferred to a Nintendo Switch 2 system. So we're going to do that. Make sure your Nintendo Switch 2 system is nearby. Connect an AC adapter to start transferring data. So I'm not entirely sure what will happen to the accounts on my Switch 1, but we got the Switch 2 and this is the only way to do it. So we're gonna just press next and find out. So on this screen, it says users who have not linked a Nintendo account will be removed from this system and transferred to the Nintendo Switch 2 system. What I'm guessing that means is that your accounts that do not have a Nintendo account linked to them, since they cannot transfer from one system to another via the server since they don't have a Nintendo account, means that all their data will be moved to the new Nintendo Switch 2 system. Save data for the following software will be removed from this system and transferred to your Nintendo Switch 2 system. So games like Animal Crossing New Horizons, Pokemon Violet, Fortnite, and Go Vacation will be moved to the other system because their save data can only be in one place at once for some reason. I'm not sure why, but that's the way it works. So basically, once you do this with your save data, you're on your Switch 2 for all those games that don't have the cloud save data. So now we got to connect the AC adapters to the systems. Let's plug in the Switch 1 first. And now let's plug in the Switch 2. So it's asking us to move the systems close together. It already found my Switch 1, so now we're going to start the download. So make sure you have your AC adapter connected to your system, and we'll probably speed this up because this could take a while depending on how many games you have on your system. So let's press start download and we'll be back. The download is now complete, so it says download complete. Software will be downloaded later. Next, screenshots and videos will be imported from the microSD card that was being used with the Nintendo Switch system. I do have some videos and stuff that I want to keep, so we're going to do that. So we're going to press next. Have the microSD card you use on the Nintendo Switch ready. So let's turn off the Switch 1 so we can pull out the SD card. I just got the SD card out of my Switch 1. Let's see what it asks us to do with it. Insert the micro SD card into the slot on the back of the system. To use this micro SD card, you'll need to update the system. All right, let's do that. The micro SD card can now be used. Screenshots and videos on the micro SD card will be copied to system memory. This may take a while, so let's do that. We're probably gonna have to speed this up again. We'll be back once it's done. All these screenshots and videos have been copied to the system memory. So let's press OK. Remove the SD card from the slot on the back of the system. So now that we have removed the SD card, it says the micro SD card has been removed. Screenshot and video import complete. About videos that couldn't be imported. Okay, let's see what that is. It says, couldn't import the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate videos from the micro SD card used with your Nintendo Switch system. A microSD express card is required to import these videos. After system setup is complete, try importing them again. Open the game's options menu and then select Manage Software. Import microSD card video. That's fine, but if you did have some Super Smash Bros. Ultimate videos, I would recommend getting the microSD express card and re-importing them if that's something you really like. But for me, it doesn't really matter, so we're going to just press OK and restart the system. System transfer complete. So let's press OK. The theme color from the source system will be carried over. All right, setup complete. To go to the home menu, press the home button. Our home screen is now set up and it is downloading all of our game's data. The system transfer is complete, including the SD card. Taking a look at the home screen, you'll notice that the bottom dock has all brand new icons, which looks pretty cool. And up at the top, you'll notice that all the profiles from the Switch 1 have been transferred over successfully. So now we're going to take a look at the specs.
Going over the specifications, starting with the Nintendo Switch 2. Screen size is a big upgrade. We have a 7.9-inch 1080p 120Hz LCD capacitive multi-touchscreen with HDR support, versus on the Switch, we only have a 6.2-inch 720p 60Hz multi-touchscreen. Speakers on both are stereo speakers. However, the Switch 2 does have virtual 5.1 surround. CPU, GPU on the Switch 2, we have an NVIDIA SoC, which stands for System on a Chip, with an Ampere-based GPU. That supposedly equals a laptop 3050, versus on the Switch, we have a Tegra X1 ARM Cortex A57, which supposedly is equivalent to a GTX 640. So quite a big graphics upgrade there. We're also talking 12 gigabytes of RAM on the Switch 2 versus just 4 gigabytes of RAM on the Switch. Built-in storage on the Switch 2 is 256 gigabytes. You can go up to 2 terabytes with a micro SD express card. Now, you do have to have the micro SD express card, which is different than the SDXC card, since it is a newer technology and the Switch 2 does not support older cards. On the Switch 1, we have only 32 gigabytes of internal storage and up to 2 terabytes of micro SDHC or SDXC. Switch 1 does not support the express card. Sensors on the Switch 2, we have accelerometer, gyroscope, plus a mouse sensor now, as well as the standard brightness sensor. On the Switch 1, we have the accelerometer, gyroscope, and the brightness sensor. Now, the mouse sensor isn't really that great, but it is usable and it is an additional feature. Weight on the Switch 2, it comes in at 0.88 pounds for the console only and 1.18 pounds with the Joy-Cons, with dimensions of 10.7 inches wide by 0.55 inches deep and 4.5 inches tall. Versus on the Switch, we have 0.66 pounds for the console only, 0.88 pounds with the Joy-Cons, with dimensions of 9.4 inches wide, 0.55 inches deep, and 4 inches tall. So as you can see, the Switch 2 has a much bigger profile as well as a much bigger screen. Charge time on both is 3 hours. While on the Switch 2, you get up to 6.5 hours. The Switch 1 does claim up to 9 hours of playtime. Obviously, both vary on game, volume, and brightness. Connections on the Switch 2 for the console, we have Bluetooth 5.2, 2 USB-C ports, one on the top for accessories, while the one on the bottom is for charging, 3.5mm audio jack, and Wi-Fi 6. On the dock, we have one USB-C for the AC charging port, one HDMI, an Ethernet port, and 2 USB-A ports. For connections on the Switch 1 for the console, console, we have Bluetooth 4.1. We have one USB-C port on the bottom for charging and one 3.5 millimeter audio jack. The Switch 1 also has Wi-Fi 4. On the dock, we have three USB-A ports, one USB-C port for charging, as well as the HDMI. Output for the Switch 2. For TV, we have stereo 5.1 linear PCM or virtual 5.1 mode for audio jack or speakers. While over on the Switch for audio output, we have mono, stereo, and 5.1 surround sound. However, be aware that the 5.1 surround only works for supported content. For video output on the Switch 2, we have 720p 60Hz, 1080p 60 or 120, 1440p 60 or 120, 4K 60, and it supports HDR10. While over on the Switch, we only have 480p 60, 720p 60, and 1080p 60. So quite a big difference for video outputs on the Switch 2. Extras on the Switch 2, we do have a game card slot which supports Switch 1 and 2 games, plus a built-in microphone. It also supports game chat, game share plus host, and HD Rumble 2. Over on the Switch 2, we have a game card slot for the Switch 1 games, plus an IR sensor, which is now missing on the Switch 2. We also have game share capability and HD Rumble. Now, the HD Rumble 2 feature on the Switch 2 is much more pronounced. You can definitely feel it a lot more, and it seems to work much better than it did on the Switch 1. Current price at the time of filming for the Switch 2 is $449 US for the console only, and $499 US for the Mario Kart World Bundle. While the Switch 1 current price is $299 US for the console only, and the bundle is currently unobtainable. Let's do a quick sound and display comparison. Both systems are set to approximately 90% volume and 40% brightness, running a Mario Kart 8 highlight reel. And taking a look at some gameplay footage of Pokemon Violet, we can clearly see the power of the Switch 2. In this scene, notice how the windmill spins smoothly on the Switch 2, while it stutters on the Switch 1. It is especially apparent at greater render distances. Then notice how the load time is about twice as fast on the Switch 2 compared to the Switch 1. And another thing I wanted to show you guys before we go is this case that I found for the Switch 2. This case is from WP Gear. So I don't know, WP Gear, but it is a really, really nice hard case. Let's take a look inside here. Check this out. So basically push the little buttons in, you fold these over, and then look at this. Whoa. So we have two Pro controllers. We have our grip. We have our charging cable, our charger. We have our HDMI cable. We have a USB-A cable that can charge your controllers. We have all of our games right here. Has a nice little game holder for 20 games. We also have our dock. We have our wrist straps. And then we have the Switch 2 right here. And everything just fits perfectly inside of this case. So super nice. And you can just go ahead and close it up. Now this case is waterproof. I mean, you're probably not going to want to throw it in the river or anything like that. And it is a really awesome case. So if you are interested, I will leave a link in the description where you'll be able to get this case from. So my final thoughts on the Switch 2 versus the Switch 1, is it worth the upgrade? I have to say that it is. There are so many benefits to the Switch 2. I mean, just the 4K gameplay is just so much better. And the sound quality, the render distances, the frame rates, I mean, the build of the system, the size of the controller, the size of the screen, I mean, just on and on and on. There's just so many benefits and so many additional features to the Switch 2. I have to say that it is definitely worth the upgrade. I would recommend getting it as the bundle with the Mario Kart, especially if you guys like playing Mario Kart. I would probably take that route. It is $50 more, but if you buy the game by itself, it's $80 for the game. So it's definitely a benefit to get it for only 50, save yourself 30 bucks. Now, as far as giving you guys links for the system, it's really tough right now because it's just hard to find it. But I will try to add links to the description of the video as they come available. And I will link to the Switch 1 if I can find you some links for that as well. So now if you do find some links in the description and you would like to purchase, I would greatly appreciate you using my links since they do benefit the channel. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell button so you never miss another video on Real Reviews. See you guys next time.